Alright guys, let me tell you who I'm with today. We got Kara here on her, I don't know what year it is, Ninja 650. That's a lie, it's a 250. Sean up front with the white CBR, you guys know him. We got Bloom, aka Matt, on his R6. And his girlfriend Julie on the back. Anyway, I'm going to be telling you guys about some of the reasons why I bought my Gixxer over some of the other brands of bikes, over other kinds of bikes. This is a 2005 GSXR 1000. So as you guys know, there's kind of a stereotype, or maybe you don't know, there's a stereotype against Gixxer riders. They're normally looked at as the squids. Like if you hear the word squid, which means, you know, you either don't wear gear, you're considered a squid. And most of the time when people say the word squid, riders think Gixxer. And I don't know why this is, you know, this is just something that developed over time, I guess because a lot of people on Gixxers tend to be squids. Now I turn a lot of heads on this bike, and it's not because I ride a sport bike, it's because I'm on a Gixxer and I'm wearing gear. And here comes the traffic. Great. Anyway, so, you know, there's a stereotype against Gixxers. And I don't know what it is, but I kind of be drawn to things where you're looked at as an underdog, you know? So, Gixxers get a lot of hate. I kind of like that. So, as stupid as it is, that is one of the reasons I did get a Gixxer. Now, one of the real reasons that I got this bike is, you know, this is the 2005 Gixxer 1000. And as I've said in other videos, this is supposed to be the best Gixxer 1000 that Suzuki made up until 2017. And I watched so many videos on this bike before I got it, and just, I fell in love with it, you know. I thought this was such a cool bike. I love the way it looks. That's another thing I love about Gixxers, because they're different from all the other bikes because they have the cyclone look. And I'll put a picture up real quick for you. But yeah, they just look different from all the other sport bikes, which I think is cool. I didn't like it at first, but it really grew on me over time. And, you know, I love everything about this bike. You know, there's so much hate that I hear with friends that have sport bikes, how uncomfortable they are. I think this bike is really comfortable. Granted, you know, it's not as comfortable as an upright Harley would be, but I don't get sore for a long time. It takes a long time before I actually feel sore. Also, yeah, guys, look at that. I'm wearing all my gear today. But yeah, you know, sometimes I just don't wear a jacket. Sometimes it's too hot. But now we're getting towards the end of summer. It's a little bit cooler now, and I can do that and not feel like I'm dying. It's a little off topic, but I also feel like, you know, like people get really pissed when you're not wearing full gear. But at the same time, like if it's that hot, you could get heat exhaustion or something and die that way too. So, if anything, maybe I'm helping myself by not wearing gear. Hashtag squid thoughts. Any excuse you can make to be squidding, right? Wow, bros! I love the paint scheme on these bikes. The blue, white. You know, before I got this 1000, because this was really my dream 1000, I was looking at the 03, 02 Gixxers, the Gixxer 1000s, because I love the paint scheme on those. And yeah, they're like old school, they look older, but I like that. I love the way they look. But yeah, I love that. I love the paint scheme on these bikes, and just their overall look. Had to make sure they made the light. Real quick too, I want to tell you guys the story about how I got this bike. So, I had my 650R, I told you guys about that, it was an 09, before I got this bike. Sold that to my friend Eric, and I was in the market to look for other bikes. Now, he had given me a down payment of $1,000, and he was going to give me the other $2,000 when he could. And I know he was good for it, you know, a lot of people don't like doing that, but I know he's good for it, so I said okay. But, you know, while I was still waiting on the rest of the money, I was looking on Craigslist for some other bikes bikes. You know, I was looking at Gixxer 1000s and stuff, and I figured, you know, I'll just wait till the right one comes along, and I could just keep my eyes open, and then when I get the rest of the money, I'll go and I'll get, you know, the bike. But, you know, I realized that at that time, I didn't need a 1000, but I wanted a 1000. But at the same time, I was like, do I really need one? The only reason I wanted to get one is because I knew that this was going to be my long-term bike for the next couple years. I was going to be done buying toys after this, because I'm going into my last year of college, and I got to start saving for a house, so no more toy buying. This will be the last toy for a while. But at the same time, I was like, you know, I don't need a 1000. You know, I can get one eventually. So I was looking at like Ninjas 600s, the Ninjas, like the 07. I love the body style of those. I'll throw a pic up for you real quick. So I was thinking about getting a 636. I found a really cool one for like 3,500, $4 grand, really good shape, and that was going to be my move once my friend, you know, give me the money. But then looking on Craigslist, you know, like I said, the K5, K6 Gixxer 1000s are my personal dream bike. You know, they were also the basis that BMW used when they created their S1000RR. They took the engine from the K5, K6 motors apart and reverse engineered it and made it better. So I thought that was cool. That was another thing I liked about it. But anyway, so I'm looking on Craigslist, and I see this bike, and it was, you know, 2005 Gixxer 1000, you know, whatever. You know, a lot of people are like, whatever, no big deal. But it had 5,995 miles on it. And from the pictures, you know, pictures don't always do their justice, but this thing looked super clean. But, you know, the guy wanted $1,300 more for it than I was willing to spend for a bike. So I was like, you know what, I'll hit him up. I'll see what he says, you know, just to get an idea. So I hit him up and I'm like, hey bro, you know, that super clean Gixxer you got there, you know, I can't spend more than this on a bike though. I told him my price, it was $1,300 less than he wanted it for. He's like, bro, I'm sorry, but I can't go that low, you know, you really got to come and check this bike out and see what it's all about. And I'm like, dude, I appreciate it, but, you know, I can't, that's way out of my price range. And so I let it go, and then, you know, 2 or 3 days later, he hit me up again. He's like, hey, I know you couldn't spend more than this on a bike, but I didn't tell you, no, I'd be willing to take it for this price. And it was only $300 more than what I wanted to spend. And when, you know, it's not like it was a $2,000 bike, where at $300 you could still be like, nah bro, I can't do that. You know, it was high enough priced where I'm like, you know what, $300, is that really gonna kill me? This is my dream bike. I'm not gonna find another one this clean. I'm not gonna find another one with this low miles in my area probably ever again. So, you know what, let me go down, let me check it out. So I went down and I checked out the bike. The thing was even more beautiful in person, and I fell in love, dude. And that's how I bought my Gixxer. Well, if nothing else, guys, that might do it for this video. As always, thank you for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, throw your comments down below, and have a great day. Peace.